Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Jamestown Public School Board to order. It is Monday, December 15th, 2025, 5:30 p.m. in the Thompson Community Room. We'd like to welcome and thank everyone in the audience for coming tonight. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does the board have any conflicts of interest to declare this evening? Conflicts of interest, conflicts of interest. If not, moving on. School board norms. Oh, Aaron, go ahead, sorry.
In the case of the executive session gets called, I would be up for her. I have a conflict due to my wife being a teacher. Same conflict.
Same conflict, yep, okay. Any other conflicts of interest? Okay. All right, and school board norms. Dan?
The board developed norms are to share and respect opinions and speak with united voice once a decision has been reached, execute all duties of the school board in compliance with North Dakota Century Code, properly prepare for meetings, and commit to assessing board effectiveness and ensure high-quality governance for all stakeholders.
Thank you, Dan. We have no public communication. Moving on to our consent agenda. At any time, a board member can remove something from the consent agenda, or if you want clarification, we can clarify anything. Would the board like anything removed or clarified? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Jason. Second by Steve. We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Moving on to our regular meeting, we have our fall athletic recognition. And so when your name is read, please join me over here. We have a little item for you. And then we're going to have everybody just line up on the steps here for one big photo. And parents, please come forward, come into the middle, get the best angle for your photo.
All right. First, boys soccer, John Beltzer, all conference. Evan Hardy, all conference. Miles Anderson, all conference, all state tournament team. And boys tennis, we've got Luke Lefebvre, all conference, all state. And Braxton Burkett, all conference, all state. Football, Liam Fry, all conference, second team, all state. Cody Barrett, all conference. Rylan Doctor, all honorable mention, all conference. Eli Olson, honorable mention, all conference. Girls golf, Miley Michael, all conference. Girls swim and dive, Marissa Moltzen, all conference. Volleyball, Mary Anderson, all conference. Hannah Atletson, all conference. Lucy Falk, all conference, all state first team. Jetta Peterson, all conference, all state second team.
Under correspondent, or on recognition, congrats to all of our fall athletic winners. Under correspondence, we have a thank you letter from the Jamestown Community Thanksgiving Dinner for all the years of support. So we appreciate that. And moving on to reports, Do we have student council report? Yes, all right.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share what's happening at Jamestown High School from the perspective of a student. I'll be giving updates on recent events, student initiatives, and upcoming activities. First, we have North Dakota State Student Council Conference. That was December 7th through the 9th, drawing close to 1,300 students in attendance with over 79 schools across the state, including advisors. That took place at the Bismarck Hotel and Convention Center. The conference brings keynote speakers, breakout sessions that focus on leadership, service, and community. The annual conference was a success, fostering leadership development, generating innovative ideas, and building lasting friendships among students. I did ask Jamestown Student Council members to share their takeaways from that, just to show how important it is, our attendance in that is, because not all schools go. Leah Dietz, Junior Vice President, shared her takeaway. Leadership is not always being the loudest. And Senior Publicity Director Clay Bingham, who wanted to be here today but has choir right now, shared, I met a lot of new people who are very productive and involved in their schools. Not only just in sports and clubs, but genuinely improving school structure and creating spaces for people who need it. Student Council Convention was a great opportunity for people from schools all over the state giving their ideas, implementing inclusion, volunteering, donating, and creating organizations and donation centers. Student councils around the state have more influence than maybe ours tend to realize. But overall, the best opportunity I took to learn about my influence and creating spaces for everyone in JHS. Do you guys have any questions on that, or I'm going to move on?
Any questions on that part of her report? All right, go ahead, Belle.
Awesome. So kind of going into that, we did have Ivy Cordell run for state student council president at that conference, speaking to over 1,300 people, so that was applause to her. But for her campaign, she had a $200 budget, and one of my topics was allocating $200 budgets towards campaigning efforts for North Dakota State Student Council Conference, because that was kind of a question mark. She ordered stickers for her campaign because you're supposed to hand something out. That was $150, and that was billed towards a school. But booth decorating, which was a total of $45, was not. So I was wondering if there could be a budget of $200 set towards that.
With our budgets, we'll talk with the student council advisor.
Yep.
And that's the place for the budget discussions.
Okay. And then school culture initiatives, I was just wondering if you guys had an update on the peer-to-peer program, and then I was going to share my next steps as well. So
Really just pending enrollments.
pending enrollments. Okay. Is that student enrollments, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So the immediate action that I would like to take would be lunch buddies, student escorts, and a joint gym class. Right now, the special education department holds their gym class during 4th hour, and it's just them in there, and I think it would be really easy for kids that have a free class just to go in there and have it more volunteer-based rather than a set course curriculum or a set course. And I don't think that would need an advisor necessarily, as we're like, I just go in and volunteer, but.
So Belle, remind me again who the student council advisor is?
Mr. Dietz.
Okay, great. Yep, and those are some things you probably your board can have discussions with Mr. Dietz on and work some of those things out.
Okay.
And Mr. Heinert, of course, as well, the principal, so.
Upcoming events, we just have Snow Week, everything, and we set committees for the dance and pep rally for that. Facilities, they asked me to bring up, they asked me to bring it up here, but I was going to talk to Heiner, de-icing the sidewalk earlier because the students that went in for early lifting and meetings, it wasn't de-iced or before 7. So,
Sure, yep. And maybe you and Mr. Deeds can make a meeting, set up a meeting with Mr. Heinert to talk about a few of those things.
that is all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
And how many students again went to the student council convention?
From our,
From our school, yes.
about 22.
22, fantastic, fantastic.
22 out of our, 21 out of 23 actually was the number, so.
It's a great turnout.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a great event, so I'm really glad that the student council was able to participate in that. Jason?
Yeah, so Belle, your thoughts on the peer-to-peer would be move that from more of a course to a student organization where people can sign up? Is that kind of what I gathered?
So my concern is getting the ball rolling right now so I can personally help make the transition for the students that would be involved, the kiddos from the special education department, and introducing them to new people and stuff like that. So that's where that volunteer-based idea came from, but I would also still like to continue the course, of course. And my next step for that is, at this conference, I asked schools which schools had them, and it's 8 schools out of North Dakota has a peer-to-peer program, and the president-elect, I have her name on here, her name is Liv. She is advocating for a peer-to-peer program in every single school in North Dakota. So my next step was reaching out to her, since she is president-elect of State Student Council now, and then also the 4 schools that I talked to, which is Mandan, Century, BHS, and Dickinson. So.
Any other questions from the board or comments? Okay. Thank you. We appreciate the updates on, especially the student council convention. I know that's always, and the board always really enjoys hearing the opportunity for students to go and learn additional leadership skills through those events. So congratulations to your organization.
Thank you, guys. And then I can send this via email also if you guys want a copy of notes and stuff.
Dr. Leggett. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda, we have board education. Oh, wait, I missed one thing. Sorry about that. Little Blue Jays nest report. Yes. Oh, okay. Yep. And this was a board requested report. So Ms. Eckert and Ms. Olson, please come forward and give us an update.
We know everybody has already gotten this in the packet. We just want to review a couple things and then take any questions that you might have. The biggest questions that it sounded like we had from the board was, how is it doing and where are we going with it? And as you can see, our enrollment in August for infants was 0, and we've increased to 8, so we're at max for that. Trends are looking that they are going to be more and more enrollments. Teresa will speak more on that as well. She's the one that's taking the phone calls and emails on our new enrollees. So you can see the projections, and then our staff support. We have hired 2 more staff so we can meet ratios for those. So any questions on this slide or anything you want to add?
So I'm getting calls, not necessarily just JPS employees, but I had 4 people reach out on Facebook last night looking for infant spots. Of course, our priority is JPS employees. That is our priority. After that, if we have space at this point, we are taking people this year. Unfortunately, most people want infant spots. Next year, looking at projections, we probably will be strictly JPS employees because we've had a lot of interest already starting to look for especially infant spots next year, but some toddler age also. So, yep.
Just curious on the maximum occupancy there, is that facilities-based or is that staffing-based?
That is where we would like to be. Facilities-based, we are licensed for more than that. We are licensed for up to 63, I believe. We would be filling pretty tight there.
What is the max in infants, though?
Our max in infants is 8.
Yeah.
So we are at max in infants right now. We do have some others, like by January, we will be at 8, but we have some that will transition to that toddler room so that when we have our next baby that comes in March, we'll have space there. So the numbers fluctuate as kids continue to move rooms based on their age. So.
So moving ahead, you also asked about some of our strengths and achievements that we've come across so far. Like we mentioned, we have the additional staffing to help meet those ratios with the incoming numbers that we have.
So, ProCare is a program that we have provided to us through Child Care Aware in the state. They have been an amazing partner for us. We've had several grants we've applied for through them that we've received. We have a consultant who comes and meets with us. I would say about once a month I meet with Verla and we do some things, but they provided ProCare for us, which is a system where our employees can track everything that they do. So if we feed a kid a bottle, we can say, you know, they were offered 6 ounces, they drank 5, and it's a way for us to keep track, but it's also a parent communication tool. So parents get that live feedback. They can log in or they can be on the app on their phone. We try to send pictures, short video updates, just so they can see how their day is going so that they can still be involved. We're also able to message back and forth if they have questions or concerns during the day, or if, you know, with our late starts, I can message parents from home to let them know that. So it's been a really useful tool for us.
And then we did think it was noteworthy. We are getting some recognition, across the state, and we have the Lieutenant Governor that will be coming up in January to visit and look at the facilities. So we're excited that the state and area are starting to ask questions, and we're hoping that everybody would be able to have something like this. And we know it wouldn't have been possible without all the community help and grants that we've gotten for this program.
Part of our program at the Little Blue Jays Nest is we have some work-based learning students who come in to help us throughout the day. That has been a tremendous help, and I think it's been great for them too, because they can use those hours towards earning their Child Development Associate credential. Today we got to start the foster grandparent program in our building, so it's been a process to get there, but we officially had our first day with our foster grandparent today. And then we've had amazing support from the school food nutrition services. They have been amazing to work with, a quick call or text back and forth, and it's been a phenomenal relationship there.
And then just one note with the work-based learning students, we've heard feedback from the community of people that are looking to get into the program that was an area of concern. And just to clarify, any student that is in the child care facility has gone through the same training, from CPR to Growing Futures, all the requirements that you need to be in a child care center. They've gone through those same pieces, and they are never alone. They help us meet ratio, but they are not one that's going to be in a room alone. But I would say when you walk into it, you can't tell them apart from the staff that have been hired for that particular piece.
We've been fortunate too that we have some students who, when we have some gaps at the end of the day, we have some of our work-based learning students who have applied and been hired on as subs to cover an hour or so at the end of the day. So it's been kind of fun to see that progression with our students too, that they're very interested in being there with our kids.
Then you also asked for some areas of growth or challenges we may have come across, since this is fairly new. And Teresa and I were talking about that today, and we also have been talking with people across the state that have centers, obviously not in necessarily schools, but these are not any different than anybody who has a child care center is coming up across. But our biggest one, I would say, would be the staff challenges, finding people that have those alignments to what our original goal was and maintaining those. And then the student to child ratios, staff, I should say, ratios.
So billing process has been a challenge, just figuring out the different state programs, and about the time we think we have it figured out, there are changes to those state programs, and that's every child care facility is dealing with that. We just had another update of changes that are coming out. So it's going to be continuing to work through that process and learn it, but we also know that we can reach out to the state. Central office has been great about helping us through some of those challenges too.
Just some natural growing pains, learning some of the systems and places. And then we already mentioned the work-based learning students, but one other part to note with that is, like I mentioned, they can't be counted in our student ratios. Teresa just informed us there's it's a feedback piece for the government that we can or for the state that we can possibly get some feedback and let them know that that would be very helpful. Like I mentioned, those students are just as qualified as the staff that we've hired. It would be very nice and helpful if we could use those to help with our ratio count.
So if they are not paid staff, we can't count them in. So like the end of the day where we hire some of those work-based learning students, we can count them then, but when they're not paid throughout the day, we can't do that. So, but anyone under 18 must be supervised by somebody over 18 in the same room as them. So that kind of can create some challenges there. But we've worked through them. We just kind of bounce staff around as we need to make it fit. So.
And then the last thing you had asked was next steps. What are we looking for? The biggest one we have is to start planning for next year. So we're looking to start our committee back up and get some feedback on what's gone well. Pretty much what we just presented to you with some of the topics we'll have for discussion within our committee to start that registration process. And like we mentioned, we already have people reaching out for next year, especially in that infant category. So we know that's going to fill up pretty quick.
So, we are working on the quality improvement rating system, and that is a program called Brighten Early through the state of North Dakota. When we wrote a grant where we got $40,000 for different needs in the nest, we had to come up with our goal, and our goal was to be a step 2. We had planned over several years to be, but within a year we wanted to be at step 1. We are currently at step 1, so we've achieved that. We are starting the process of working towards step 2. One of the changes that happened with some of the new child care assistance stuff from the state is that you will get bonus payments based on your quality rating. So we are pushing to get that Brighten Early rating up higher as soon as we can so that we can take advantage of some of those bonuses from the state to help our program. So.
And then the last thing is state licensing. We've been working on that. We've already had 2 check-ins with that and passed with flying colors, so that's been going very well. So our questions are we hopefully have answered your question. We're wondering what questions you might have for us.
Thank you, and this has been a lot of work to get to this point, and appreciate all your work and dedication to get here. Are there questions from the board at this time? Questions from the board? Jason, go ahead.
Kind of an odd one, but is the facility planning that was all done, is that working like it was expected to? Any major instances there where something just didn't work out for as far as facilities go?
I'm chuckling because the only major issue we've had is plumbing, but that's to be expected in a child care center, so we're working on that one. But no, everything else, if you're talking about the actual rooms and the building that was with that, everything's gone pretty well. We have a couple little hiccups, but those should be taken care of within the next month or so.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We look forward to future reports as well. Okay, a couple housekeeping things. Board members and audience, Jamie Bear is joining us by phone today, so you have heard, there sometimes can be a little delay, so just be aware of that. Also, our next on our agenda is the Choice Ready Overview and High School Integration Essential Skills, and we'll invite Mr. Heinert, Mr. Beta, and Mrs. Eckert up for that. While they're coming up, would the board mind if we moved 4B, under finance up to the next agenda item after this? We have auditors here from Widmer Roll, and they have to travel back to Fargo tonight, and so would that, if the board is okay with that, you comfortable with that? Okay, so we're going to do our board education here, and then after that, we will move right into 4B finance. Okay.
All right, thank you. And joining me this evening is, from the beginning, is Mr. Beta, is my assistant principal. Heidi Eckert is also our assistant principal, and she's assistant director of James Valley Career and Technology Center. So, biggest piece about North Dakota Choice Ready, when you access the website, this is more than likely one of the first pages you're going to see, and there's 4 major components of the Choice Ready format for North Dakota, and that is the essential skills at the top that you see in blue, everything that you see up there, and below that is post-secondary ready, workforce ready, and military ready. And what the state requires of our students is, from that part in the blue, our students must meet 4 of those areas, any 4 of those areas, to be choice ready, okay? And then for the areas down below, they must meet 2 of the 3, okay? And any 2 of these 3, okay? And so, in addition to that, there are also some other key criteria that every student must meet as a part of the essential skills, okay? And these are the required gateways. And so you must be a high school graduate, in other words, to be North Dakota Choice Ready. You could qualify as under a 9-week career educational course or individual counseling. At Jamestown High School, we fulfill that through our counseling piece. And our students have access to it as a part of that 4-year rolling plan. And then there's also the career development piece with the counseling. So that's how we fulfill that at our school. There's the financial literacy piece, and we complete that through personal finance. A passing score of a civics test, and our students have unlimited opportunities for that. So even if they fail once, twice, 3 times, they can keep coming back until they fulfill that requirement. And then for the computer science and cybersecurity requirement, JHS has an integrated plan for that, okay? There are still opportunities online where students can fulfill that as well through cybersecurity, but our integrated plan takes care of the vast majority of that. So for essential skills, these are the key areas that we were speaking about earlier. And again, students can meet any 4 of these. So 25 hours of community service. And we're very fortunate at our school. Our students are doing very well with that. And I'll show you some data in just a little bit. As well as 95% attendance. Career exploration. We fulfill that. Basically, every kid that's a part of our school has that opportunity. We have 2 career fairs throughout their high school experience. One is required, the other is optional. We also fulfill that career exploratory with our guidance counselors in the classroom, okay? 2 or more years of organized extracurricular activities, or co-curricular for that matter, successfully complete a capstone project, successfully complete an online learning course, demonstrate 21st century skills, and again, that's embedded within our CTE piece, and so that's where many of our students are experiencing success with that, and then multicultural awareness as well. And this is the data from 2025. Okay, this is where our students performed just for last year's graduating class. So from last year's seniors, 70% of them met the requirement for 25 hours of community service. Pretty proud of that. In terms of 95% attendance, 61% of our seniors met that. Where we're trending right now through November for our own students, our juniors and seniors have an average daily attendance rate right now of 96%. They're absolutely crushing it. Very proud of those kids. Our sophomores are at 95%, okay, and our freshmen are at 93%, but they're trending upwards right now, so pretty pleased with the whole big picture. As a school, we're at 95% as an average. Our career exploration, we're at 100%, as I mentioned earlier. 59% of our seniors that graduated last year qualified for co-curricular, and 69% qualified for extracurricular, okay? 84% of our students completed a capstone project, and that's, again, embedded in many of our courses, and so that's where they're fulfilling that. 75% of our seniors qualified under online learning, and 100%, of course, qualified for 21st century skills, and 70% of our seniors qualified for multicultural awareness. And so that's how we obtain that 98% for essential skills. That's a big piece. For schools that struggle in meeting choice ready requirements, chances are really good they struggle in this area of the North Dakota Choice Ready. Mr. Beta is going to talk to you a little bit about post-secondary ready, and then he also has some data to share about that.
Dr. Leck has a couple comments
Mr. Heiner, I have a
also.
question. As it relates to essential skills, you talked about this, it's a gatekeeper. You have to meet essential skills before you can even go down into the other 3 components. 98%, how does that measure up? 98% of students meeting essential skills.
That's 98% of our seniors that graduated last year fulfilled that requirement, so they were able to meet that, okay?
And how does that compare across the state? Do you have an idea? I mean,
Well, I actually have some data on that, which I'll share later. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, good evening. So when we get to that bottom part, if you've met essential skills, these would be the qualifying criteria for post-secondary ready. So the gateway there says you need a 4-year career, rolling career plan, which all of our students will have. But then we talk about GPA. So they must have a minimum GPA of a 2.8. If those conditions are met, we have basically 2 ways you can be considered post-secondary ready. The first in the top right up there would talk about like your ACT scores or your SAT scores. Eventually it will be the ND North Dakota A+ assessment once they get there. Those cut scores haven't happened yet, but if you qualify under those, you'd be considered choice ready. In the event you don't hit an ACT score, you don't hit the SAT benchmarks, to the bottom right, there's a list of criteria there, and you need 2 out of that whole combination. It could be any of those. So as you read through, there's like AP courses. You have to have, an A, B, or C. Take a dual credit course, A, B, C. Algebra 2, an A, B, or C. If you take the AP exam, you need a 3 or higher. If you take the International Baccalaureate exam, 4 or higher. 3.0 GPA for the course requirements for the North Dakota University admissions process. If we had CREAM, which we don't, that would be qualifying 70% or greater. And the bottom would be 3 fine art courses where you get an A, B, or C. So several areas there for our students to meet. And we'll go to the next slide and show you, I don't know which one, there's a clicker. We'll show you the next slide here on how our kids did. So you can look here, this is AP data for our students. You can see on the left-hand side talks about the course. The next column over would be your earned a minimum of a 3, which is a passing score in the AP exam. And then you can see some more data as far as the pass rate our kids had, and then the North Dakota pass rate to the right. So our students did absolutely amazing. They did very, very well. Even in the criteria like calculus, well, we had a 70% pass rate, but we had only 10 kids taking it. So, I mean, that's to take into consideration along with psychology. Same with chemistry. We had only 5 kids in AP Chem, but 4 of the 5 hit a pass rate. And as you go down, you can kind of see we had 47 of 106 kids get a 4, which is amazing. And those scores then translate to other colleges and accepted as credit for those courses. Okay. And dual credit. Next one will be your dual credit for our kids, and this is just total students that earn credit. So I won't read through all the courses, but you can see like Comp 110, we had 36 students for semester 1. Comp 120, we had 37. And you can go down the line and see how many of our students took advantage of dual credit opportunities and earned credit, which all adds to our qualifying criteria for post-secondary ready.
And I'll visit a little bit about the workforce ready area, because the career and tech obviously fits well with this this particular spot. I'm not going to read everything for you, but you get the idea from what we have to have. But basically the career and tech courses with an A, B, or C. And then those career ready practices, which have been mentioned a couple of times tonight. There's many of those. They're new this year with the area that they have redesigned at the state, but they cover stuff from leadership, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, integrity, timeliness, skilled employee, all those different pieces that they mentioned earlier kids are assessed on. Instead of the ACT or SAT, we have the work keys option. The industrial credentials, I've been looking into those because at the Career and Tech, we'd love to send every kid off with a job offer in one hand and some sort of certificate or credential in the other hand. They do not have a list out, but when I last looked, which was last week, they were hopefully having that fairly soon. But we do have ASE, which is the automotive certification. We have CPR. We have a Mechatronics possible certification that students can get. OSHA we're working on, and an aerial lift, and CDA, like Teresa Olson mentioned earlier, are some of the ones that we have right now for students as opportunities. So I'm hoping many of those, if not all of those, will be on that list that they'll accept. And then the workplace learning experiences, you see 2 of those up there. I'm most well versed in the Perkins part because that is a direct correlation with what we have at the Career and Tech Center. And Mr. Jerry Wagon is our work-based learning coordinator that sets those up. When it's with the Perkins funding, what we have is students want to have a class or 2 in that area, and then they go out into the workforce, and their employees are assessing them on those career-ready practices again. So as you can see, we've heard it 3 different times. Those career-ready practices are a big part of the workforce-ready part. And then I will mention with the world languages, I did think it was noteworthy that sign language would fit under a world language, just as a little tidbit with that. Questions that you have for workforce on this piece?
The first criteria there, complete 3 CTE courses or more. Is it a concentrator type setup, or can it be 3 different courses? Any like program that the student needs to take 2 of the 3? Does that make sense?
Yes.
What are the requirements there?
That's a great question, and the state likes to look for concentrators, and obviously we'd love if all students could figure out what they want to do, but high school is also an opportunity for career exploration, as we heard in the other parts. So either of those criteria will meet, depending on what the student needs. We have many that take all sorts of different career and tech classes, as well as ones that decide to be concentrators, which means they have 2 or more credits in a program area. Thanks for asking that. Good question. And then how was this earned for our Jamestown students? You can see the list of courses that we have up and available. The new ones that we have CDL, we have culinary, and agriculture is back in from being on a little hiatus for a while, but otherwise the rest of those have been up for a while. Any other questions?
So the third area where students can earn choice ready would be military ready, okay? And of course, they have to have that 4-year rolling plan. And in order to be choice ready for military ready, it would be a score of 31 on that ASVAB. In addition to that are the indicators to the far right, quality citizenship, so no suspensions or expulsions. And they have to be physically fit, successfully complete a required physical education course, earning that ABC, of course. Complete 2 or more additional indicators from post-secondary or workforce ready options, or complete 2 credits of JROTC or Civil Air Patrol, or complete 2 credits in the military pathway program. Those top 2 that you see are actually available right now through North Dakota Center for Distance Ed, so our students have that. CTE is actually, well, they're exploring the bottom 3 as a way of adopting that and bringing that on board, but that has not yet been approved. So, any questions from Military Ready? Okay, so here's some choice ready data from the 2024 through 2025 class back through time, and this goes as far back as the year 2020 to 2021, and that'll be the groupings on the far left, and everything in the green. 21 to 22, of course, will be in the blue, the 22 to 23 school years in the orange, and the 23 to 24 areas in the gray. And then to the far right, of course, that's our most recent data with that class of 24-25. Pretty proud of where our students are currently sitting. Okay, for essential skills, again, we're still shining at that 98%. Okay, post-secondary ready, we've raised the bar a little bit at that. We were at 59 earlier in July, and after our report came through North Dakota SLEDs, okay, it came out to 65% for our school. Okay, for workforce ready, we're at 98% of our graduating seniors have fulfilled that. Military ready life skills, we have made some serious jumps there. So 65% of our seniors qualified for that last year. And then choice ready, all right, 80%. And that's absolutely incredible to reach that mark. Pretty proud of our kids in terms of our progress in that. I think one of the things that makes it so difficult for choice ready is the fact that this piece is so incredibly fluid depending on our legislature. And whether that's changes and shifts that they're making to that, all right, to say, hey, we're going to up the ante a little bit to push kids a little bit more because we believe that they can excel. And that also can impact the state scholarship side, which would be a whole nother presentation. Okay, so, but we can talk about that at another time if you wish. We'd be happy to come back and talk about our progress there, especially over time. So any questions with the data that you see there? You might note, and you might ask, why were we so low just the year before in military ready, and it's 17%. And we used to test our sophomores, and then we made a shift. We started assessing our juniors for the ASVAB, and that group actually slipped by us that year. We invited them as seniors to jump on board. We even scheduled an extra test date. They weren't too excited about taking yet another test their senior year, and I get it. And so that was part of that piece. Another thing that I did not talk about earlier, but I think is significant to note, and that is the change in requirement for the ACT. Okay, and so it's no longer required to get into our universities. It is tied to many scholarships, however, and it's also tied to the state scholarship. So we still have a good number of kids that are taking the ACT for that reason, because they do want to use it as a qualifier. And again, I'm not really sure how much more moving forward we're going to trend up or down in that area. It's really going to depend on the interest of that exam. Any questions from this slide? Okay, here's some data in terms of comparing Jamestown High School to the left over that same time period to the state averages to the far right. And that's where you'll see in that 23-24 area where we were a little bit low in military ready, but we're really making some great strides there. Actually, we're trending upwards or steady in basically every category for Jamestown High School, even post-secondary ready. And so that is really encouraging to see. Versus the state average. Any questions with this? Okay. So how's data collected? Well, first of all, it's downloaded from PowerSchool. It's imported from our NDUS system, so that's a big piece of that is GPA, CTE courses, ACT, advanced placement courses, dual credit. All of it comes from NDUS, all right? And then the piece that you see down below that is collected from our students. And so when our students come in to have meetings with their counselors and they begin talking about the courses they'd like to take for the following semester, they first meet with a lady from our office named Dorothy Lollinger, and honestly, I think she's the best in the business. She does a very good job of collecting the information, everything that you see in the blue, from community years of volunteer service, co-curricular and extracurricular participation, activities like 4-H and figure skating, things that sometimes go by the wayside. She does a very good job of asking kids about their participation in those opportunities. Let's see, summer or after school employment and technical assessment in the industry. All right, so again, that's a big piece of her portfolio, and she's incredible. Our counselors also do a very nice job of following through to making sure that all those things are in place for those kids. So where is JHS shining? Well, essential skills for sure, at 98%, very proud of that. Workforce ready, we're at 98% of our students, at least for last year. All right, they fulfilled that requirement. Post-secondary ready, only Fargo North, Fargo Davies, Bismarck Century, Grand Forks Red River scored a higher percentage than us. All right, so I'm very proud of where our school is trending in that area as well. And then of course, that choice ready mark of 80%, that's a very high mark to be proud of, all right, for our students. And so I believe we are the first one since our last update to reach that mark for our school. So how can JHS improve? Well, I look at this as a big place for us would be the ASVAB. There's opportunity there. So we continue to provide ASVAB test preparation for our students. We created a comprehensive ASVAB test prep guide for them. It explains the purpose of all subtests. It follows the order of the exam. There are sample questions. There's key vocabulary terms, visual models. We actually built that. I looked at purchasing some ASVAB books. They're at a price point that's up there, I'll just say that. And then even if you buy like 5 or 10 copies, will kids really take an interest and check that out and return it in a time where another student would have access to it? So our students have complete access to that. We promote second ASVAB attempts in March, and that's, by the way, for juniors and seniors. We had a new subgroup of seniors come in just this week where we're going to be meeting with them and informing them of the 2 dates of opportunities that they'll have to take that, especially if they're within, probably 5 points of making that score. I think they'd have a great opportunity to do that. Promoting extracurricular and co-curricular and club opportunities for our students and expanding dual credit offerings. We just did that, of course, through speech. And then leverage of JHS newsletter to educate our parents. And we've been pretty active about bringing parents up to date this year with activities within the school. And that was, of course, noted in our last newsletter. All right, any questions?
Any questions from the board? Jason?
As far as the extracurricular, co-curriculars go, are there expectations within that? Meaning, can you just get your name on the FBLA roster and you're counted, or do the club advisors sign off, document what they've done, or do the students are required to do that?
We actually gather a lot of that information from the students, and we can cross-reference it with coaches and advisors to confirm. All right, but yes, a lot of that information comes from our students.
Yeah, it's just participation.
Other questions from the board? It's a lot of data to track.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, very
yeah.
proud. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda, we are going, as we discussed, going to move 4B, finance, to the next item. And it is, the agenda items are approval of the audit, number 1, financial statements, and A, governance correspondence, and B, report on internal controls. So we'll let Widmer Roll come forward and in person this time. Yes,
Yeah.
welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, is this off? You're good. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Craig Hashbarger. I'm an audit partner at Widmer Roll. As you all know, this is our second year as a firm working with Jamestown Public School District, and we really have enjoyed working with you the past 2 years. The first year of an audit is always a challenge for everybody involved, both in this on Christie's end as well as on our end as auditors. But obviously, we got the audit done and all came out relatively unscathed that year. This year, I think things went tremendously well. Here we are, it's not even year end yet, and here we are presenting before you, and very pleased to be doing so. But with that, I won't say anything more. I'll just hand it over to John Worrell, who is the manager, who did a lot of the heavy lifting on this and was out here on site working with Christy and the accounting team each of the last couple of years. So thanks again for having us.
Get this down to my height quick. Yeah, like Craig said, thank you for having us. My name is John Worrell. I'm an audit manager with Widmer Roll. Very happy to be here. And so, like Craig said, we're out here in September. I think it was the second week for 3 days of field work. You'll see me and Craig up there, but we also had 3 other associates with us who did, I would say, even more of the heavy lifting over the course of the engagement. My role in the audit is to be able to, speak to the client, direct them on where to go. They're the ones doing a lot of the work. And then, Craig's role is ultimately the responsibility at the end of it for the entire audit report itself. And so this audit was for fiscal year 2025. So this would include the activity from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th of 2025. As far as the opinion itself, it is an unmodified opinion over everything, which is a clean audit opinion. Another way to think of it would be, a passing grade would be a good way to think of it. And that is over all opinion units. That would include the government-wide statements, as well as the fund financial statements with the major funds and the aggregate remaining fund information. I could bore you with the details on what all that means, so I'll refrain from that unless you want to ask me about it. But everything was unmodified. Additionally, there is a single audit portion of the audit which deals with the federal grants that the school receives and puts on for stuff like Title I, special education, child nutrition cluster. There's other ones, but those are the main ones. I'll get into more detail on that later on during this presentation. But the actual independent auditor's report is pages 1 through 3 of the main packet of information. It will spell out the responsibilities of both management and auditor. The main responsibility for management is to be able to prepare a full set of financial statements that are free from material misstatements. It is worth noting that while we do assist with the preparation of the financial statements, it is ultimately the responsibility of Jamestown School District for those amounts. Additionally, the school is required to design, implement, and maintain a system of internal controls to ensure that there are no material misstatements in the financial statements. Our job as auditors is to express an opinion on that via audit procedures, looking at bank statements, looking at invoices for expenditures. Again, I could go into a boring amount of detail, but that's the main areas. I do like to provide some numbers in these presentations. So this first one is the cash over time, specifically for the general fund. You will see that it does stay, relatively stable. Looks like there's a jump in 2023 to 2024, but then again, does stay stable. And at the end of 2025, the amount of cash is about $8 million. I think it was a little bit over $8 million, if I remember correctly. Oops. There we go. This next slide will show on the income statement, which is page 8, the main sources of revenue for the general fund. As is typical with most school districts in the state source revenue is the main source. That would be stuff like transportation aid, per pupil aid, stuff that is coming from DPI. The next main source is the local source revenue. That is mostly property taxes. There are some other amounts in there, but the main one in there is property taxes. And then the smaller piece of the pie there is the federal source revenue. That is basically getting reimbursed for through DPI and other federal agencies. Sorry, not federal agencies, but other federal grant agencies. Basically what you put into the federal programs such as Title I Special Ed and so on. This next slide, sticking with the general fund, is the let's call it a pie chart over the expenditures. You will see, and this is pretty typical, and I looked at last year's audit report and it was about the same ratios. The regular instruction piece of the pie takes up about half of it. And everything else takes up about the other half of it, as you can see. This next slide is for government-wide. So this would be bringing in other funds outside of the general fund, such as food service, student activities, other stuff. And you'll see, I think specifically the revenues increased by $1 million. If I'm looking at that right, and the expenditures decreased by about $2 million there. Still fairly steady, but there is some increases in there also. Included with everything else will be a listing of journal entries that were made on over the course of the audits. These are not indicative of the school district needing to change anything with their financial processes. There are certain items that need to go in the financial statements, such as receivables, payables, capital asset information, long-term debt, pension obligations, stuff like that, that are not necessarily tracked in the internal accounting software that do need to make it onto the actual audit reports. This is common amongst all of our school district audits, so it's not indicative of Jamestown School doing less than other school districts. It's just for us to be able to present GAAP financial statements, these adjustments are necessary. Some of the more significant note disclosures would be I'm trying to read that, Note 5 and Note 6 and 7 below. Note 5 has to do with the long-term debts, so bonds payable, certificate of indebtedness, leases and loans, as well as any compensated absences. Basically what that note is showing is the activity of long-term debt for the year, as well as any debt service requirements to the maturity of those debt items. I do have it noted in there that compensated absences did increase quite a bit. That is not due to anything school-wise as far as like policies or anything like that. That is what is called GASB 101, and it just changes how compensated absences are being recognized. Fiscal year 2025 would have been the first effect on school districts for this. So that's where that increase is coming from. Note 6 and 7, this is talking about net pension liability and OPEB liability. If you look on page 4 of the audit report, you'll see there's, I want to say it's about 32 million of total liabilities. 29 million of that is net pension and OPEB liability. This is not saying that over the course of the next however many years, the school's going to be paying off 29 million to retired teachers. This is stemming from about 10 years ago. There's a GASB pronouncement for 68 and 75 that requires these to go on the financial statements. In my opinion, it's more of a ND PERS and ND TFFR liability, not a school district liability, but it does have to be shown on there. I think this time would be a good time to pause for any questions on the, I guess, the numbers side of it, if anyone has any.
Any questions from the board this far into the report? Okay, continue on, please.
So yeah, this next piece of it will be going over any required communications over the course of the audits. There would have been a letter to governance with the entire audit report and everything else. We are required to communicate certain items to the board, before, during, and after the audit. The main one being any significant risks for the audit. I do stress, because we get this question all the time, this is not indicative of any findings or any issues that came up during the audits. It is to help us plan our audit procedures for a successful audit. Most of those are basically at all of our clients. The one exception is, you'll see, I think it's the 5th one there, issues related to bank reconciliations. This is stemming from the prior audit. There were some differences in the cash reconciliations that there was a finding for it. So we did have to include that this year as a significant risk just because of prior experience. The cash stuff was remedied this year, so there was no finding in the audit report this year. But it is, again, a significant risk over the course of the audits. Significant difficulties, I can say very proudly that there were none. Clients, Christy and staff were very responsive to all our requests. Like Craig said, we're here, I want to say, or virtually here in March to present last year's audit report, and all of a sudden we're here in December again. So it went very well this year. And I think a lot of the items with the delay last year was, like Craig said, with the first time engagement. And then we also are required to provide a list of any AJEs and GASB entries. That was mentioned on another slide. Those are the items related to capital assets, debt, pensions, other related items. We do have to issue a report on compliance required by uniform guidance. Earlier, I did talk about Child Nutrition Cluster and Special Education Cluster, which are the 2 programs we tested for the single audit portion. And so, again, this one also came back as a clean audit opinion. There were no findings related to any federal programs. As far as any responsibilities of management, they are responsible for overall compliance with all federal programs in accordance with uniform guidance. And then we are, responsible for testing those areas. All of that will be in a separate package called, like this, we refer to it as a single audit package. It's about I want to say about a 15-page document. It would include the opinion over uniform guidance, the opinion over internal controls, the CFA, which is the Schedule of Expenditure of Federal Awards, and a couple other items in there as well. I think I'm going to gloss over this slide a bit. This is just giving a description of the certain levels of findings. The one finding, this audit, and I'll stress this is a finding at a vast majority of our clients. I did mention earlier there is adjustments necessary for items such as, again, pension, capital assets, long-term debts, other areas as well, in order to be able to present GAAP financial statements. This has to do with us, assisting with the preparation of those financial statements, and for that reason, we do have to issue a finding for that. Like I said, this is a finding at basically all of our clients. In my career doing this, which is over 10 years, I can think of 4 or 5 clients who don't get this finding because they do prepare a full set of financial statements. They're typically the largest counties and schools in the state that have 10, 15 staff on board. Okay, so I think that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board regarding the findings? Any questions? Okay. All right. Is there a motion for 4B with 1A and B to approve the audit? Motion by Steve? Second by Aaron. We have a motion and a second to approve the 2025 audit, correct? 2024-25 audit. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. And we'd like to thank you for coming out and meeting with us in person. We appreciate that. So thank you and drive safely back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Turn back a page here. Okay, we're going to go back to the approval of the strategic plan progress monitoring. We have dashboard, goal 3.3, chronic absenteeism, goal 4.3, choice ready. Dr. Leck.
Okay, thank you. You have both of these written reports, and both of these have either received updates today or in the last few months. So some of these areas I will touch on a little bit more than others. Some I'll gloss over. But as it relates to chronic absentee rate, our goal, a very aggressive goal, has been 12%. And all of the data that we get comes from North Dakota Insights. So that's a public, we want to make sure that if you are watching online, then if you go to the North Dakota Insights website, treasure trove of information exists on district information, academic progress, student information, post-secondary education, the district environment, special education performance, and staffing. There is quite a bit of information available on all public school districts across the state. This is a great resource for families, and it also drives the data collection for our strategic plan. If you go to slide 4, you can see the chronic absentee rates. So you'll see a trend down. We were at 15% at the last completed school year. We were at 15% in the 23-24 academic year. Our last completed school year, we saw a decrease down to 14%, so not at our goal of 12%, although I will say 12% is a very aggressive goal, and I want us to keep it there. I think that's a great goal to strive to. I just want us to put it into context of where that is. You see where the state average is. We're certainly below that. Our focus is, of course, on our district and where we're going, but you'll see that decrease from, we've been pretty steady in 14, 15%. I have a lot of different slides in this presentation, more for your awareness than for a report, but that includes district demographics and then a breakdown for the attendance rates, or the absentee rates at each building and demographic breakdowns at each building. I won't go into those as a whole, but my focus, I'll touch on a few. My focus is on the district result narrative. So as I said, we've seen a slight improvement, decreasing that chronic absentee rate from 15% to 14%. And I will bring you back to what what does chronic absentee rate mean? We use the definition that the Department of Public Instruction uses, and that is a student attending school for 10 or more days who also missed 10% or more of their enrolled days within that school year. So that's how we meet that chronic absentee rate, or that's how we get to that. Attend for 10 or more days and miss 10% or more of enrolled days within that school year. So again, as a district, we're seeing a decrease below our 12%, but we are trending towards that. So I would say that we are on track. What you'll see if you look at statewide data, you see very similar ratios. We're lower consistently, but you're seeing the same trouble areas across demographics that we see. Ours are lower, but you see trends that are very similar otherwise. So why I bring that up is I don't believe systemically, I think we're on the right track. We just have some areas that we need to provide a little focus on. But from a system standpoint, I think our process and what we're doing is working well. But targeted interventions with some student subgroups at different levels, that's where we're going to see our ability to go from that 14, 15% down to 12 to 10%, is by being a little more surgical in some of those interventions with subgroups. I went through collected this or showed this data at every school. You see at every level below the state average, in some different demographic changes than others. The high school below that state average, again above our targeted 12%, but you're seeing that trend there at 16% chronic absentee rate. At the middle school, you see that decreasing 19% when in the 23-24, down to 16% in 24-25. Again, still below the state average, a little bit above the state average like the high school. At the elementary level, you see, I'll start with Gusner, really very low. I don't know that I've never seen a score, an absentee rate that's at 3%. I think that's a real celebration at that level, and you see a very low rate also coming with Louis L'Amour. One thing I will point out is that this has 5 elementary schools and not 4. We're going to see a shift as our students have been distributed into 4. So you'll see an increase in Gusner, very likely in the next school year, just as those demographics have been shared between the 4 remaining schools. At Lincoln Elementary, you'll see a pretty flat line from where it was 2 years ago. At Louis L'Amour, a decrease. At Roosevelt, a decrease. And I have at every one of those different schools just touched a little bit about the subgroup that we're seeing overall, the impacts. And again, it really comes down to being surgical at those specific levels with particular subgroups, and they vary somewhat by building to building. It's not the same subgroups everywhere that are, but there are some trends in terms of special education. Some of our other subgroups have consistently been in there. Hispanic students, our English learner students, our homeless students are all exhibiting higher than the norm for chronic absenteeism. They're still below where the state is at, but they're high compared to at our district level. So with that, I'd stand for questions on chronic absentee.
Any questions for Dr. Luck? Aaron.
Yeah, so I think in instances here where we're making a statement that we're not meeting the goal for this specific objective, in order to put some teeth to the strategic plan is to just detail out, all right, so what are we going to do different than specifically, and then what's our confidence level in achieving or closing the gap on our goal by the end of the year.
We're very fortunate to have a Students Attendance Review Board committee that works. This is the data that we will provide to the Student Attendance Review Board. They will look to strategize in the specific areas at the different levels to help us bring from 14% down into the 10 to 12% range. So that's really the next step of where this goes, is giving this to our practitioners, our counselors, our administrators that work in work with the student or on the Student Attendance Review Board, and help them to develop, or have them help to develop strategies that are going to be specific to bring down those where we need to be surgical in those targeted areas. Do you mean to report it on here? What?
Well, you'll be asking the board to approve this then, right? And that's an action that I would expect to see within this package then, to say, okay, so these are the next steps and how we're going to close the gap.
Yep.
And because that's a part of the whole approval process then, to say, okay, the board's on board with that plan to do that.
Okay.
Owen, go ahead.
Yeah, this is interesting to break it down by kind of at-risk demographics, but then the to be considered chronically absentee, it's that over 10 days and 10% threshold. Is there this committee with the counselors and stuff? Are they looking at the kind of the seasonality too, through time of? Because the data we have right here is just at an aggregate, right? Are there things beyond just demographics or at-risk demographics that may be at play, like times of the year where there's more absenteeism or things like that?
Yeah, I would have to talk, we would have to, to get a little bit more granular like that, we would need to talk with the SAR board to look into that. I, off the top of my head, don't know the answer to that. The seasonality, I'm sure, yes, there is. How the SAR process works is after there's certain thresholds of days met, so 5 days. That brings forward a counselor, one-on-one counselor conversation with the family. What barriers are you seeing? How can we help get your child to attend? And then as the days continue, it gets a little more administratively involved, where a letter comes, then it's a one-on-one meeting with the principal, those kinds of things to bring forward more teeth to the expectation of it to attend, and that could be all the way up to loss of credit if they're in a credit-bearing class like at the high school. But in terms of the when, I'm certain that there's some seasonality related to absenteeism, but a lot of our families, once they start to get those notifications and those connections, many don't need the letter. Many don't, and even fewer go towards the administrator conference. So what we've seen is that connection to home from our counselors is a lot of what our families need to maintain below that chronic absentee rate.
Thanks.
Other questions from the board about the report? Okay. The second report is Goal 4.3, Choice Ready. Dr. Luck.
So you went through a great piece of board education on this. I'm only going to touch on a handful of things. One, that our metric is 80%. If you go down into slide 5, our goal is 80%, and our range is 80 to 84% on ND Insights. The reason they have to give you a range is we have subgroups with small sample sizes, so they have to give you ranges. So we're in the 80 to 84% range, meaning that we've met that expectation, met that strategic plan goal as it relates to Choice Ready. I won't dig in a lot more to that unless there are more questions, just because our administrators did such a nice job of providing that information already. The one thing I will say, I'll editorialize it a little bit, infusing essential skills into our course requirements, I think, is a huge driver towards a large number of students meeting Choice Ready. That essential skills is a gatekeeper, And when 98% of students, our seniors, are meeting that mark, just they're going to have more meeting 2 of the 3 of choice in choice ready, post-secondary, workforce, or military ready. They're going to, and I think where you see schools that don't have this level of choice ready, that's a big piece of it, is the essential skills, because that you stop if you don't meet 4 essential skills. You don't move forward down into the choice ready components. You just stop. And so the fact that our students, just by coming to school, are meeting a lot of those essential skills, they're much more likely to advance on to being choice ready. So I think that a great credit to the high school administrators and the staff that have embedded those skills, because without that, I think we wouldn't have been able to meet this goal. I do think that, as Mr. Heinert had pointed out, ASVAB, we saw the ASVAB as a hole or a gap where we didn't have as many taking, and they targeted a lot of different strategies in which they're going to increase the students taking the ASVAB, which means more students will become military ready. You'll see that number grow from 84% much higher when you see more students meeting that military ready standard. More take the ASVAB, you're going to see a higher number there. And I appreciate the work that they've done there already. We also, later on in this agenda, is a request to approve a course for military as the military pathway. That's another component that's going to see an increase in military ready as well. I've included more demographic information for you, but outside of that, the only other additional metric beyond choice ready is our cognitive commitment. We have engagement in a couple different indicators. Cognitive is one. I'm on slide 12. You've seen over time that's increased from 32 to 39%. Our goal is 50%, so we are on track, but we are not at the 50% mark. We're seeing an increase, which there's certainly a positive trajectory on those engagement scores, but that is where we were at as far as our 24-25 school year, which is our last completed year. So under that amount, but trending upwards. So with that, I would stand for questions on choice ready.
Any questions on choice ready as presented? Okay. All right. So we have approval of the strategic plan progress monitoring, and so we're approving the progress monitoring. And to your point, Aaron, we can have some follow-up on actions that and strategies. So thank you
I'll
for
ask
that.
SARB to provide some specific strategies, and then we'll present on those and throughout the course of the year. Probably let it be into the spring to give them a chance to dig into the data.
Steve?
Can we go back to the absenteeism very quickly? I don't know what the metrics are that where SARB gets involved, but if simply getting them involved is where the buck stops, can we just get them involved 1 or 2 days earlier? I mean, that seems like a viable path forward.
Yeah, we certainly can. What our data has shown is that, and I don't know that it's related to, that question is related to how soon we engage, but I think it's like 80% of our students don't have more than 5 absences. So they're about halfway to that trigger. And I don't know that it's directly related to those phone calls, but I do know that those that trend up, we've seen a decrease in those that are reached 10 by the earlier intervention and the tone of the call. In the past, we sent letters directly, and it was administrators that made those first calls as opposed to counselors. And it was viewed more as authoritarian than helpful. But we can certainly talk to them in terms of if they think an earlier intervention would help that, or, 3 might be a pretty low number, because not all of our absences, I mean, some just can't be helped. But that's something we certainly can bring up to the SARB committee.
Any other discussion on the, Steve? Go. All right. Okay. So the agenda item is approval of strategic plan, the progress monitoring and reports that were given today. Is there a motion? Motion by Aaron. Second by Jason. We have a motion, a second for approval of the strategic plan, progress monitoring, dashboard, goal 3.3, chronic absenteeism, goal 4.3, choice ready. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Moving on to the superintendent report, Dr. Luck.
So you have my written report. I'm very excited about a couple things. First, we have a new hire recommendation that you'll act on later in this meeting. Paul Munson, who has been a teacher in our district in the past, in the alternative program, the Blue Jay Academy, and at the high school. This would be as a CDL instructor. Heidi mentioned that earlier, Mrs. Eckert mentioned that earlier, adding CDL into our CTE offerings. With Mr. Munson, we'll be able to offer that not only to our students, but eventually there's potential for that to be offered throughout the community as well. So I think that's something that I'm very excited about. I think there's a significant need in our community workforce related to CDL, and I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition here next semester. The next 2 items relate to artificial intelligence tools. So as part of the SEEK grant, one of the packages that come is what they are calling the Gavel Guide. So from a parliamentarian standpoint, if you have questions on Robert's Rules of Order, you can click on that link. What I would encourage you to do is to make that an app on your phone or a hyperlink on your bookmarks. And so you can click on there. If you need to ask a question, how do I amend a motion? What is the process for tabling a motion? Whatever the case is, you can ask that. It essentially becomes your parliamentarian. It's also been uploaded with all things parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules, but also North Dakota's open meeting laws. So if you have questions related to governance and that standpoint, you can ask the bot, and it will give you a well-curated answer. Along those lines, one of the agenda topics that's coming up later is a contract with this same vendor that we received the grant for to do the strategic plan dashboard and the governance side. Is a benefit simulator for staff. Kind of the same idea. There would be a website with common questions and key areas, all of kind of a clearinghouse of all of our benefit information, whether that is our benefits guide, handbooks, policies related to benefits, all housed in one place. The simulator and the AI bot will be curated with all of those documents, so our staff can go in and ask questions. For example, I have a family dental plan, and my son needs to get 3 fillings. What am I going to pay for a copay? And the bot will be able to answer that. I'm having a baby. What are the steps I need to consider? Well, you have parental leave that you should be considering, gap funding, or you might need gap insurance. This is the policy that governs this. This is how many days you're going to have. It'll give you, here's a timeline of steps you should take. And we think it's going to be a really nice benefit for our staff at really a pretty low cost. A few other items in my report, just a reminder to do the campaign finance disclosure documents by end of January. I was asked and presented to the Interim Legislative Taxation Committee. I just shared that presentation with you. I talked about the course approval. You heard earlier about this, the state visit for Little Blue Jays Nest, something I'm just really excited about, that program is getting the recognition it should have, and Lieutenant Governor Strinden coming, executives from the Department of Commerce, some legislators, other folks coming to check out what that program looks like and what we're doing, to see if that's something that can be supported. And we want to make sure that we reinforce how important our WIP was, the Child Care Assistance Program, all of the other programs that we use to drive down those costs. And so we're excited about providing a little more awareness to that program. And then the spotlight I wanted to share was Christy Grounds. She was accepted into the Stutzman Barnes Women's Leadership Cohort. So that's only 15 regional leaders that get to do that. And the mission of that cohort is to cultivate and connect women leaders across Stutzman and Barnes counties by providing meaningful learning, mentorship, and community engagement opportunities that inspire growth and create lasting impact. So just a recognition that she was accepted, and best of luck to her. And with that, I would stand for questions.
Questions from the board on the superintendent's report? Okay. Not moving on. We have nothing under old business. Under new business, we have nothing under activities, buildings, and grounds. Number 3, curriculum assessment instruction. A, approval of course proposal for the 2026 to 2027 school year. Number 1, Career and Technology Center Military Pathway course. Is there a motion? Motion by Owen. Is there a second? Second by Aaron. We have a motion and a second for approval of the proposed course, Career and Technology Center Military Pathway course for 2026 to 2027 school year. Any discussion? Aaron.
Yeah, just when I went through this here in prep, and it just kind of raised a question in my mind is, you know, in the future, can we look at broadening the scope of this specific pathway to include not just military service, but, you know, firefighting, law enforcement, EMT, other services, community services that kind of follow that same mantra, but not military centric, just to kind of broaden that whole view of a community, more of a service in general pathway. So just again, not for specifically for this, but a future consideration as we move forward.
And just have a comment. I have 2 smiling administrators back here who are in 100% agreement with you, and it aligns with discussions that we've had in terms of wanting to provide opportunities like that.
Thank you, Aaron. Any other discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of the course for the Career and Technology Center Military Pathway course for the 2026 to 2027 school year. There be no further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Under Finance, A, approval of the agreement with Optimize Ed Strategic Solutions to develop a staff benefit webpage. Is there a motion? Motion by Steve. Second by Owen. We have a motion and a second for approval of the agreement with Optimize Ed Strategic Solutions to develop a staff benefits webpage. Any discussion? This was also discussed at the Health Insurance Committee also, and they were in favor of moving forward. But it is just probably a little larger than just health insurance. You know, it could be other policies like family leave and those kinds of things. And so they referred it to the board to consider. So do we have a motion second? No, I got lost. Yes, motion and a second for approval of the agreement with Optimize Ed Strategic Solutions to develop a staff benefit webpage. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. We've taken care of 4B. The audit was approved. Number 5 under operations, approval of the district communication plan. We'll do a motion in a second and then have some discussion on this. Is there a motion? Motion by Steve? Is there a second by Jason? We have motion and a second for approval of the district communication plan. Dr. Luck, did you want to comment on this at all, or you just?
This was part of the strategic plan, and we will provide a little board education when that comes for progress monitoring. But you do have the written plan in front of you. There were a couple of different goals that were identified in the strategic plan: position Jamestown Public Schools as a recognized district of choice in North Dakota, strengthen transparency and accountability within the community of Jamestown, establish a regular cadence of modern and effective communications that promote the JPS strategic plan and professional quality of staff, and then engage and educate stakeholders of Jamestown Public Schools. I broke those down into short-term goals, what we can accomplish or what I feel we can accomplish in the next year, and then longer-term goals, what are the things that we want to accomplish in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe larger goals or those that take a little bit more commitment, and that is what is before you is not only those one-year short-term goals, but the action steps for each goal area with short-term and long-term goals.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? Aaron?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of good content in here. I think it touches a lot of the points that we've been talking about. So, and you having a short-term and a long-term vision there, but I can definitely see that there's going to be some lessons learned, and then so I'm fully anticipating that we roll this out there and we go, well, we didn't think about this or that. So there's going to definitely be some changes there, but I think it's a great starting point, and I think it, like I say, it hits a lot of the points that we've been talking about.
Yeah, my vision, and I should have touched on this, but my vision would be that we, sort of like our strategic plan, we revisit this plan annually too. So we go through our first year, and maybe sometime in our next school year, we bring an updated version of this. Where are we at? Kind of to your point, what worked well, or maybe these are different strategies, or hey, there's still a gap in this with this stakeholder group, so let's plan this. I do agree it's a good place to start. We've already started to operationalize a couple of these goals to see where we can go next. So yeah, it's a good start.
Yep, I agree. Any other discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second for approval of district communication plan. There being no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Under personnel, A, approval of the resignation at the conclusion of the 2025 to 2026 school year contract, Cassandra Beach. Is there a motion? Motion by Owen. Second by Steve. We have a motion and a second for approval of the resignation at the conclusion of the 2025 to 2026 school year, Cassandra Beach. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved, and thank you, Cassie, for your service to our district. B, approval of non-renewal of extended contracts for first semester of the 2025 to 2026 school year. JHS, Kim Carpenter, Lynn Kozel, Cody Mickelson, Cassandra Redburn, Tim Ranum, Carla Rosario, Denise Wood, Veronica Askew, Stephen Hyde, Chantel Schock, Har, Jared Bartles, Morgan Hare, Brad Hanottle, and Amy Eigel. Is there a motion? Motion by Aaron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jason. We have motion and second for approval of the list of non-renewal of extended contracts for the first semester of 2025 to 2026 school year. And for the public's notice, these are just extra courses that these individuals are willing to teach. They're still with our district. So sometimes we get that question. Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. C, approval of extended contracts for the second semester of the 2025 to 2026 school year. JHS, Kim Carpenter, Cody Mickelson, Denise Wood, Cassandra Redburn, Lynn Kozel, Tim Ranum, Carla Rosario, Morgan Hare, Stephen Hyde, Brandon Ottle, Amy Eigel, Debbie Krebs, Phil Kraber, Chantel Har, and Jared Bartles. Is there a motion? Motion by Steve. Is there a second? Second by Owen. We have motion and a second for approval of the extended contracts for the second semester of the 2025 to 2026 school year. Any discussion? Any discussion? Owen? And Owen first, or go ahead. Aaron?
Yeah, so with this, I'm been raising the point here for a while now. I think it's great that we have this basically a merit-based recognition of people who are willing to step up and go above and beyond. So that's a good thing. But I do know that there are people that at the other levels that we're asking to fulfill FTE equivalent roles, and they should be added to this list. And so if you could just comment on that.
Yeah, you'll have one. We were just having this conversation today. Our anticipation is there will be two that we feel are extending beyond typical FTE requirements at levels not at the high school. We'll have a rationale, we'll kind of explain why we feel like this need is, and then the solution. And that's coming on our January 19th. So we'll have two that are currently filling instructional coach pilots for us at the elementary level. And this is requiring some prep and planning outside of the scope of their typical day. So that's why we're making that recommendation for those two positions. Well, again, it says a pilot, but it could be a model that we're looking at long-term as well. So we want to make sure that we have a strong recommendation, doing a little bit, I think maybe a stretch to call it a time study, but we're looking to see what that time commitment is now. We spent a little time doing that today, and so when we bring that recommendation, we'll feel good about what that extended day contract would look like.
With that, then, that'd be retroactive for the full semester then?
It would be for the 25-26 year.
Okay.
So it would be for the full school year.
Okay, thank you.
Owen?
Yeah, I was noticing with some of the groupings of the extended contracts that we had at the high school, especially like in the English department, we're almost at a full load now. I know it's different with onboarding somebody and benefits and things like that, not one-to-one, but at what point, or are we advertising for that English? The English one stuck out to me, but
Right. It seems like every year we're struggling to fill one FTE, which means that there's a follow or a spillover to the impact of the department. And when you see this many, that means that we have a gap that we weren't able to fill. We would rather bring people than have extended contracts, unless there's a long-term decline in enrollment that we're planning around, and we might do extended contracts as a short-term solution rather than bring somebody into town and then do a non-renewal just to address an enrollment bubble. But in the grand scope, we would much rather see an individual here to fill that FTE as opposed to giving extended contracts. We just aren't always able to do that. We aren't able to find the right person all the time.
So did any of these represent open positions?
Yeah, math and ELA.
Okay.
Math and ELA, correct? Science, yes. Yeah, that's right, science.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. We have a motion, a second for approval of extended contracts for the second semester of the 2025 to 2026 school year. Any other discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. D, approve the hire on January 12th, 2026 for 2025 to 2026 school year. Number 1, Paul Munson. Is there a motion? Motion by Aaron. Second by Steve. We have a motion, a second to hire on January 12th, 2026 for the 2025 to 2026 school year, Paul Munson. Dr. Leck?
Just a reminder, post-January hires, non-continuing contracts. Just a reminder.
Yep. Jason, go ahead.
Point 29 FTE, what, and I see that comes out to be 91 days. Is that designed to be?
2 periods.
2 periods? Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay. We have a motion, a second for approval to hire on January 12th, 2026 for the 2025 to 2026 school year, Paul Munson. Any other discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, or not, all those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved, and thank you, Paul, for joining and filling this position. Policies and procedures. A, approval of amended policies and regulations. Do you mind if we do them together, or would you like to separate them together? Okay. Number 1, second reading of policy BAB, board conflict of interest. Number 2, first reading of policy HCBA, vendor conflict of interest disclosure, with subsequent A, review of HCBA-E, the vendor conflict of interest disclosure statement. Is there a motion? Motion by Owen. Is there a second? Second by C. We have a motion and a second for the second reading of policy BAB and first reading of policy HCBA with subsequent review of HCBA-E. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, assuming roll call vote, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Nothing under tuition or other outside of the election information, and if you have questions, Christy has the information, and connect with her if you have questions on that. The only other thing I'm going to just refer back to is while we had the approval of the audit, C and D, the general fund balance and the monthly financials are there for your, just for information. There's nothing we need to vote on. Do you have any questions about that at this time as the board? Okay. So items for future agenda. Are there any items at this time that you'd like to bring forth for future agendas? If not, please let myself or Dr. Leck know. Scheduled of meetings. Health Insurance Committee meeting is on Monday, January 12th, 2026 at 3:45 p.m. in the District Office Conference Room. School Board meeting on Monday, January 19th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. in the Thompson Community Room at the middle school. Amy did send you some emails on this. The North Dakota School Boards Association Winter Summit, February 5th and 6th, 2026 in Bismarck. Any other meetings that we're missing at this time, committee meetings? Okay. I can't think of any, but just checking. Next item on our agenda, possible executive session to discuss negotiation strategies. Okay, no motion for that. Then under monthly superintendent evaluation, section 1, goal and vision, and section 3, human resource management. Please complete those. There being no further business before the board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.